I think there's no greater feeling than being on that sideline. You call a play, and you know what the defense did to stop it. You know the counter to it, and you know that counter is going to score, and you call it, and then you go, touchdown, fellas, and it actually happens. Now, it doesn't happen a lot. I've said a lot of times touchdowns, and we've gotten a sack or a stop for no gain. But that 1 in 100 time that it actually works, it is the greatest feeling in the world.
Well, Coach, you also talk about the tempo part of it. The cool part I think is, and we talked to Seymour, who's a defensive coordinator, and it's nice you see, a third down package come out for a defense. And now that's their skinny guys, and they got 3 down linemen and a bunch of fast guys out there. You complete the first down. Now, like you said, you're jamming that triangle button. You're going fast now. Now they can't sub anybody out. And you've got exactly who you want on the field with your guys against, a speed package. And it's another thing that I'm really looking forward to looking at and using as well, so we can try to keep some of their speed packages out there against, some of our better personnel.
No, you're absolutely right. That actually helped us last year in the playoff game. We were first round of the playoffs. We're playing a team that everyone was saying we're going to get blown out, and we fell down 14-0. So everyone's like, "Oh crap, we're going to lose." Well, we started coming back, and it was a critical moment. It was like 3rd and 3, and even if you're a spread team, for the defensive coordinators, they always assume 3rd and 3 you're going to run the ball. So they switched out. They actually put, like, instead of small dudes, they put really big guys in there. And they packed the box in, and we just threw a little stick route, like a 4 little hitch. And I was like, damn, why are they all in the box? Let's just go ahead and just throw it out there to our other guy. We got the first down, and then we immediately went tempo, and they had their big dudes that some of them actually played offense. So, like, started on their offense.
Wow. So it really
got we were gashing them. And then all of a sudden we were able just to hit an inside zone where we took advantage of their being tired, and they stood straight up, and my guys just railroad them. And we squirted like a 25-yard touchdown because they made that adjustment thinking, they're going to stop us. And then we got the first down and just immediately hit up tempo.
Hey, one of the cool things we did in practice, and I'm kind of curious to see what you guys do to help speed it up, but one of the things that I never thought of, and I got into college, and obviously we're an up-tempo team, really, really fast at the time. I think we were the fastest tempo team at that time. I don't know now what it is, but and one of the things that they made sure they did at practice was receivers had to throw it to the referee every time, right? So every time we got tackled or touchdown or whatever, it wasn't throw the ball down or give it to a coach. It was every time we had someone in a striped shirt, and they were getting it to that ref, so that way we could go faster, something that I had never thought of, until I was at somewhere where that's all I wanted to do was go fast. Is there any little things like that you guys try to do or that you make an emphasis on in practice or even in the game to help you guys go even faster?
Yeah, we do that same thing. If our kids we don't have jerseys because we're kind of poor, but we designate one of the coaches as being the refs. So if they don't, whatever it happens, a run, a catch, anything, if that person doesn't toss the ball to him or hand it, he has to come off. We have another coach that makes him do up downs because we really want to stress, no, you're taking time away because we really want to go fast. Another one is regardless of if it's 7-on-7, team, inside, or whatever, let's say there's a long run or there's a long throw over 20 yards. If it's a throw, 10 yards. If it's a run, that person comes out, next person comes in. And the reason why we do that is it keeps us going fast, and also it makes those guys on the sideline in practice actually pay attention because you never know what's going to happen in a game. Does that make sense?
Sure, yeah.
So we do that. We do on air at least 2 times. And actually, coming up spring, I'm doing 3 times on air where we just spot the ball. And our plays have like 3 or 4 different options. You got the gift, you got the key screen or the hitches, you got the run. So we're going to do that 3 times. And another one is I went back on film, and this is something you have to really pay attention to is your splits for your wide receivers. If you're going fast, they kind of tend like big guys, if they get tired, they get closer and closer. They don't want to get their splits, at least, our offensive linemen. Well, The same thing happens for the wide receivers. They keep getting closer and closer. So the next thing you know, you're in a compressed set going fast, and you're like, what in the world is going on? So what I'm going to do is we're going to put the ball down, and you just got to run up there and get set on your landmarks wherever the ball is. Then blow the whistle, put it 10 yards more down the field, and then they have to run and set up like that. So everything's on air just to get them used to the speed and where they have to line up.
We got really lucky. They were doing goal line short yardage that day. So it was kind of like you remember when you'd showed me that YouTube of that Stanford's O-line coach. Now he's the head coach.
Bloomgren.
Yeah, Bloomgren. So you had shown me a video on YouTube of Bloomgren, and he was doing different goal line. Like they got a whole different technique for goal line. Their whole practice.
4-point stance.
They're springing out of their stance. They're not even taking step. They've got a whole different – it's a whole different practice for them. Hey, this is goal line. And the cool part was it was Rice's first practice to ever do that. So all they were talking about, these coaches were, when we got there, was it's going to be really different for you guys, to us coaches, but it's also going to be really different to any of these GAs, any of these coaches, any of these Rice players that haven't been through this yet. And it was.
Yeah, like I said, I think I'd said it in our first podcast when Coach Callahan was at Nebraska. So, I mean, he talked about goal line plays, and the one that he'd drawn up was blast. And it was the same thing. He's like, this play is designed to get 1 yard. And then he had the research behind it. It can cost you up to 3-4 games in the NFL, and that's the difference between, getting your contract renewed or getting fired. So it kind of stuck with me as a young coach, but it's the same kind of deal. And they talk about, uncoiling out of your stance. So getting in that 4-point stance, and it's like the old, 6-point explosion. You almost got your knees on the ground, your feet on the ground, and you're exploding up into the defender. That's literally what it was. It is pretty fun to watch a lot of their, cut-ups. If people want to say, hey, 1 yard, 2 yard runs for touchdowns are cool. I thought they were really cool. It's a huge play.
Yeah, it's big. And that was another big takeaway from it, was they had an entire practice. Now they did some 7-on-7, they did some 1-on-1, but their whole practice was designed for goal line short yardage that day. They put a huge emphasis, like you said, and we only saw goal line that day, but a huge emphasis on the little things, little situational things that'll win you ball games. So they put a huge price tag on being able to convert for 1 yard. And for the majority of the plays that they ran, there was almost no way to get more than 2 yards. They were going to be 1 yard plays. They weren't going to go for more than 1 yard, but what they needed was 1 yard, with the exception of a few play actions or quick toss, passes out there. But the most part, their run plays, they're going to stack everyone in there. They've got a certain technique to make sure they get that 1 yard, and they're probably not getting more than 2, but they get the 1 yard. So it was just cool to see an entire practice all designed around getting 1 yard, and to see the offensive line practice it. And one of the big things you don't think about is the quarterback exchange. It's extremely difficult. Huge. And we saw them struggle with that. As they said they would even at Stanford, because it's something that they're just not used to. 4-point stance. The quarterback or the center's got a whole different technique, and they're doing stuff about throwing their face into, the other face and uncoiling. And so, they've got to get used to that. And we saw a few fumbled snaps. And one of the cool parts to me was like those coaches knew exactly what it was going to be. There was no screaming. There was no cussing. That, from offensive line all the way to head coach, everyone was pretty cool, calm, and collected. All right, let's get back in the huddle. Let's do it again. Let's get the snap. But they knew they were going to have trouble with the snap. It's a difficult snap to get if you haven't taken a million snaps like that. So another reason it was cool to see them put a whole day around a goal line technique and goal line snapping and, all this stuff.
That's pretty much the epitome of the West Coast system. They go through all kinds of situational stuff. It's not just going to be, hey, let's run plays for this many hours. There's always going to be, a set plan and a set situation for what it's going to be. Whether it's 2-minute, 4-minute, backed up offense. I mean, they revolve entire practices, just like you said about that. And it's pretty cool when you're kind of learning out as a coach to be able to really dive into that. I think a lot of coaches spend vastly too much time on just open field plays, regular field offense, openers, I think that gets to be, yeah, there's a certain percentage of your offense, but I think a lot of football is won and lost in those critical situations. I got to get a yard. I got to score a touchdown here in the red zone. We can't run the ball very well in compressed spaces. What are your play actions going to be? What are my best matchups? And then not only that, but you're not scheming up a new play every week. Having a bank of those plays that your kids feel comfortable in. It's like, hey, when coach calls this play, we know we're going to score. That was one of my favorite things at BA when you calling plays and you knew they were going to be really, really good, and it was because the kids knew the same thing. Like, oh yeah, coach, I knew you were going to call this when we got to the 20-yard line, or the quarterback knows that. To me, that's like the epitome of, what it should be all about. You're all on the same page. You're all on the same wavelength. Everybody's got confidence in the plan that we've put together.
Right. They're prepared and they've seen it in practice. And that's really cool when they've seen it in practice. You've talked about this before with offensive line, but they've seen whatever you've shown them in practice, and now they see it in the game. It's exactly what you've practiced for. And I, that's something I've seen a lot of coaches fall victim to, like you're talking about. And it's something I fell victim to a lot is, just getting, okay, we need to make sure we run this play against these fronts and this, but none of it's situational bound. And now you're in a game and you're like, geez, I wish we would have worked with having a compressed field or whatever the situation is, being able to get through that. Something I've worked on growing with, and even putting with that, putting in crazy different defenses. So we've seen a lot of different things. So that was really cool to see. The other big takeaway I had was it was really cool. They let so obviously the head coach, Bloomgren had a pretty big input on goal line. The offensive line coach would even say that. He's like, you're going to see the head coach down here. This is his favorite day. And so it was cool seeing him getting a 4-point stance and work some of their techniques that they work with the centers. And it was cool because he was like standing over there staring at the offensive line during Indy. And the offensive line coach was like, coach, you want to take the centers and go work? I forget what he called it. And Bloomgren is kind of like, oh, yeah, I guess I could take him over there and show him. And he's running over there then, and he's getting in a 4-point stance and showing them. And so that was really cool just seeing the excitement he had and how much he loved, goal line. But what I was going to say was what was cool was the day before, the offensive coordinator kind of talked to everybody. They all had whatever. And then the day after they did goal line short yardage, the offensive line coach actually ran the whole meeting. So it was like goal line short yardage was his baby or whatever you want to call it. So when he met with the quarterbacks, running backs, the whole offense, and they went over film of goal line short yardage, and he ran it. It was like his thing. So that was kind of cool getting to see an offensive line coach just take over for goal line short yardage. Not that he took over, but they gave him the ownership of it.